local law enforcement from Miami-Dade Police, City of Miami Police, Miami Beach Police, all working together to try to keep from happening in South Florida what we've been seeing in some of these other states. Hundreds of arrests, injured officers, injured civilians, injured bystanders, people who aren't even a part of any of the protests, and they're trying to prevent that from happening here.
And we've been saying this back and forth a bit, Robin, is that at this point it would appear as though, again, the numbers that we're getting from the Miami mayor is about 200 agitators here that have been moved throughout the city, but watching the number of police officers, clearly they are outnumbered here, so it's a matter of trying to, push them away, break them up. You see the police there moving through Bayfront Park there, and we talk about the damage and the destruction. We've seen this across the country. A lot of times what ends up happening in these situations, yes, there are the corporations, the corporate stores, but then there are people, especially there in Bayfront Park. We go there all the time. There are people who have their livelihood staked out there, these small mom and pop stands and these little shops in there. So to have these people affected in all of this, as you see some of the destruction there with the trash cans turned over and thrown, and then some of the glass shattered there as well. This is what police are trying to prevent any more of. This is what they want to stop. They don't want anybody to be getting hurt throughout all of this. Police, clearly from what we've seen, have had time to plan over the last couple of days, watching what has transpired nationwide. Within minutes, they were on the scene there. They had their crews moving throughout the streets. They told them they were going to get off the streets by 9 o'clock. The mayor had issued that countywide curfew. It's very apparent at this point, as we've been watching things kind of go throughout the night, that they have had a plan, and once things
in the area. And now we have the opportunity to show you some of these still pictures taken from our social media producer, Joel Franco, and you can see the lights of Bayside, these kiosks that Joe was mentioning, that some of these small business owners have put up, have staked their claim, have built these small businesses, and you can just see debris strewn around. I know I did see another shot from Joel that was the Lacoste store, and the windows were shattered, and you could see that items had been taken from inside that store as well. So apparent looting happening in the Bayside Marketplace in Miami, just across from the American Airlines Arena. And you can see police there on the scene, converging to take care of anyone who is up to no good. And at this point, it really remarkable, especially in the context of looking at what has been happening in other cities. In Philadelphia today, several police cruisers on fire. In Chicago, police cruisers on fire. At one point, you could see protesters and police essentially attacking each other. In Los Angeles, police cars on fire. All of this happening during the day today. And in Miami, what we saw, hundreds of people stopping traffic on I-95, but the protests were calm. There was, I didn't see any violence from the reports that we'd filed earlier. Nope. In Coral Gables, in fact, where Franklin was earlier, police were joining the protesters at one point in taking a knee. Really a chance out there in Coral Gables, according to Franklin, for a dialogue, a back and forth between city officials and then anybody who was out there protesting. As you see, the police there continue to move throughout the streets tonight. It's clear at this point that the police force is out there. Again, 20 minutes ago, they wanted the streets cleared. That is around the time that we saw these people running through Bayfront Park there near the AAA. And then in about 40 minutes from now at 10 o'clock is when this county-wide curfew will be going into effect. At this point, it seems as though from where we're seeing, the number of people have sort of moved through, followed quickly by police showing a strong presence out there. Ralph, I'm assuming that's what we're describing accurately, that it seems as though people have sort of dissipated where you are?
That's correct. The police officers did respond a little late here. Obviously, they're they have to wait for the information and guidance as to exactly where to go, but they were given the green light to go ahead and secure the area of Bayside. That's the very familiar flag area right at the main entrance there off of Biscayne Boulevard. And we have police officers now, motorcycle officers here, just clearing the driveway and the entrances there. The number of people that you consider to be protesters are down to the bare minimum right here. The special response vehicles are now in the middle of Biscayne Boulevard, giving these folks a heads up that this curfew is going to be implemented, and they won't be given a choice after the hour is met. They will be probably taken into police custody. But you can see right here, all of these vans here, that's for people to be taken into custody if that is so necessary. We mentioned earlier that this was no surprise to anybody, and that they would be prepared for vandalism and or other exigencies. And it appears that they do have the upper hand. There's the freedom. Here it is right there, Torch of Freedom right there, where everything started earlier today, where it was peaceful. You see police officers now marching out there right out towards the center. These are mostly the officers we're looking at right here are county, and they're on the clock, and they're prepared. They train for stuff like this along with all the other responsibilities they have. And for the most part, I think everyone would agree that the protesters and the police behave themselves pretty well.
City of Miami mayor would agree with you, Ralph. He said everybody was on their best behavior. There was actually a video that our social media producer, Joel, posted earlier. He was on 95 with the protesters as they were walking along I-95, and there was a shot of a protester on top of a police cruiser on the roof of the police cruiser, and you could see a Florida Highway Patrol trooper and a City of Miami officer, and just kind of waving everyone by. There was a lot of acceptance of even the disruption of having I-95 shut down in the city of Miami on a Saturday afternoon. That was disruptive, but the crowd did what they came out to do and left just after 6, according to the City of Miami Mayor Francis Suarez. And then a different element moved in, more aggressive, as he described them, about 200, a smaller group, and the tear gas came out. They dispersed, but it appears some people took advantage of the large contingent of Miami police, Miami-Dade police, Miami Beach police, and headed over to Bayfront. But we can now head over to Rafael Pires, who is still on the scene in Miami, and you can see a larger group behind you. Rafael, have you moved? Where are you?
Yeah, things have changed quite a bit here in the last few minutes. We're here on Northwest 3rd Avenue by the police department. I'll let you take a look back here. When we were going live earlier, there was virtually no more protesters here on this side, but as you can see, there's maybe a couple dozen, maybe 3 dozen protesters who have come back to this side. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. No, thank you. There are about 3 dozen protesters or so who have come back to this side of the police here, to the police department, and it looks like some of them are standing here in front of the police officers who have their shields. One other thing that you can probably hear pretty clearly here, I want to show you, is the fire department. They did come back. That's because of that fire that you can probably see back there. I don't know if you can pan over to that fire. That's another vehicle that was lit up here, apparently by protesters, it appears. That was the fire we were telling you that was still going on after fire department had left. But it did appear that they came back and were attempting to put out that fire, but it's hard to see exactly what they're doing now. It looks like they may be leaving the scene as well. A couple of things that are important to note that we have been seeing with some of these protesters who are stuck around on this side of the police department. Some of them had started showing up here with some of those black vehicles that you may see back there. Some of them were kind of standing out on top of the car, screaming things at those police officers. Once again, this was pretty much the epicenter just about 2 hours ago that you might have been following along with us, where police were across the road here, completely blocking it off. They were shoulder to shoulder, had their shields up. They were throwing out tear gas as protesters also appeared to be throwing objects at them. We saw some of the protesters slamming some of the police cars here, throwing rocks and breaking some of the windshields, some of the other windows on police cruisers. And for the most part, it seemed like that had died down, but now it appears that some more people are coming back here, and they are facing off with police officers once again. Back to you guys.
All right, Rafael, thank you. And just want to pass along for anyone who's just joining us, the situation that's been happening in Miami after protesters who had been demonstrating for justice involving the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police officers. One has been charged in his death this week. We saw protesters about between 600 and 1,000, according to the mayor, out on the streets of Miami, disrupting, causing traffic tie-ups, stopping traffic on I-95 for a time, doing what they were doing from 3 until after 6, and then a different element moving in, causing destruction. We're seeing the vandalizing of police cars set on fire, a civilian's car set on fire, looting at Bayfront Marketplace, and now a curfew in effect in Miami-Dade County, which starts in about 33 minutes, a curfew that will be imposed and enforced. So say Miami-Dade and City of Miami Police telling everyone to clear out of the area around the Stephen P. Clark Center. You will be arrested. If not, they have said that they will use tactics to disperse you from the area if you do not willingly disperse. Curfew joining cities Los Angeles, Atlanta, Chicago as well, also putting curfews into place tonight after days of protests have turned into looting and fires and destruction, people being injured, officers being injured.
And it all, culminating at a point here in the city of Miami. As far as the destruction goes that we've seen tonight, it's not on a level that we've seen in some other cities. Again, this is, I'm not sure if this is all that's left, but this appears to have dwindled down to this group here. Police telling people that they wanted them off the streets by 9 o'clock, as Robin just mentioned, or they would be using these tactics. Well, here you still have them going and facing the police officers themselves. As we watch this escalate through the early evening and into the evening hours where we are now, clearly there was a switch that was flipped where these did go from peaceful to a destructive point. Again, not to the level that we've seen in other stories, although any damage is damage done. But police clearly had a level that they were willing to tolerate before they rolled out with everybody that they had at their disposal, especially on a Saturday night. And we did have those county reinforcements come in as we continue to look at these images there on the street. Robin?
And something I wanted to pass along from Miami-Dade Transit. All Miami-Dade Transit services, including Metro Rail, Metro Mover, Metro Bus, and the Go Nightly program have been suspended. So all Miami-Dade Transit services, by the time that curfew goes into place, because they will be enforcing that curfew. And something I really think bears repeating: we are just coming out of stay-at-home orders across the county being lifted, businesses starting to reopen, and we still have COVID-19 cases being tracked, people being tested for COVID-19, and now you have pepper spray and tear gas being deployed in crowds where people don't have gas masks. People will be coughing. So, you've got these protests for justice and the death of an unarmed man at the hands of police, but you also have the fact that we are in the middle of a pandemic and a health crisis as well. And I think that's something we'll have to wait for a couple weeks to see how that all plays out. But you've got sort of twin crises happening at the same moment.
And we have an opportunity now to have on the phone with us Chief of Police George Kalina. Chief, first of all, thank you for joining us. I know this is a very busy night for you, but can you provide us an update as to what's happening here as we're looking at these images? What are you getting and what can you tell people?
So for the most part, most of the crowds have dispersed. It is incredibly disturbing that people would come out and behave this way because this has nothing to do with George Floyd. This has nothing to do with the injustice that occurred in Minneapolis. We had many peaceful protesters, and you have these infiltrators, these agitators that want to come and create chaos. We've declared an emergency order. That curfew will go into effect at 10 o'clock tonight and at 8 o'clock tomorrow night till 6 in the morning. If you are on the street and we come across you, you will be arrested. We're not going to allow people to come and destroy our city. And I want everyone to understand that we are very serious, that if you are outside and you are protesting, when this curfew takes place, you will go to jail, and the charges are serious. Unlawful assembly, we will notify you. Violation of an emergency order. There are many people that are sick, that are ill, that are COVID positive, that are out in the street in very close quarters with a lot of these crowds that do not have masks on. They're shoulder to shoulder, potentially spreading this virus, and they believe that they're doing that because this somehow makes things right in Minneapolis. It's very disturbing. But I just want to be clear with your audience. This is serious. This isn't something that you come out because you think it might be a neat experience. No, you're breaking the law. You're tarnishing what George Floyd stood for, which by all accounts was a man of peace, and you're breaking the law and you'll go to jail.
Chief Kalina, we thank you for joining us on a night where you are clearly busy and have your hands full. Do you have the benefit of watching what's been happening across the country? I know you put out that video this week telling your officers you stood with the Minneapolis police chief and firing those officers immediately. But did you also have the benefit of watching how other departments, in some cases, struggled a bit with handling this different element that seemed to be at play when nighttime came?
We have. We've been paying attention, and that's why we've had many people out in the field showing what is incredible restraint on the part of our officers, understanding that people are angry, and they have every right to be angry, and they have every right to voice their anger. But what is unacceptable is when you want to destroy property that people have spent their lifetime to build, that does nothing. And it takes the focus away of what happened in Minneapolis. And so we're going to try to do our best to identify these agitators, which the majority aren't even from here, and make the arrest that is appropriate. But I think I just can't stress enough how dangerous it is to get wrapped up in these crowds where we have to deploy gas to disperse, and people are shoulder to shoulder. Many will be coughing, many will be tearing, and that is dangerous. And unfortunately, we won't have a choice. We will warn you, but when we tell you that we're going to deploy gas, we're going to deploy gas. And when we tell you that if we're forced to, we're going to make arrests, that's what we're going to do.
Chief, I think that's a very good point that you're bringing up there. I do want to ask you, you mentioned that these agitators, many of them are not from here. How do we know that? How do we know they're coming in from other areas to do this? And do we know where they're coming from?
We have intelligence. We have intelligence officers that, follow these groups, these agitators. We know they come in from the outside. Many come from outside the state even. And so they're organized and they disperse to different cities. And their aim, by the way, is to divide us further. And that's the shame of this all. They're not here because they want to make a point or a stand or speak about injustice. No, they're here because they want to divide us further and they want to ruin communities and they're interested in chaos. And that's why I've asked earlier today for everybody to come together. Don't let it just sit on our shoulders to keep the peace. If you're out there and you're protesting because you're angry and you want to be heard, there's nothing wrong with that. When you see someone that wants to throw a bottle or a rock or get confrontational, police each other as well. Don't just rely on us. You see it, you call it out. And we appreciate the help.
Chief of Police George Kalina, thank you so much. I really think your experience with COVID-19 during this pandemic, during the shutdown, you really bring a different lens to this, not only law enforcement, but also the public health concerns that you spoke about. I think it'll be a couple weeks before we understand the true scope of how all these protests could have an impact on public health, as well as people's livelihoods and property damage as well.
Absolutely. And just one last point that I'd like to make, because you referenced it. This is a very depressed economy as it is. A lot of people haven't had an opportunity to work. We're just opened up where people can get back to earning dollars that they need to pay their bills and to feed their families. This doesn't help that effort at all either. And that's, like I said, it's disturbing. We should do much better, and we can do better. And so I hope that the viewers heed the warning and work with us. You want to protest, we're here to protect you. We're here to protect your right to assemble. We're here to protect your right to free speech, but you're not going to be allowed to break the law.
Chief, before we let you go, one last question. Can you tell us about, or have any of your officers been injured? Have there been any arrests as is out there?
There has been some arrests. I don't have that number right now. I haven't had any reports of anyone seriously hurt or hurt at all. I'll be briefed on that soon, both on the police side or the civilian side. I know that there's been people that have complained, of course, of the gas that we've deployed. That's common, but outside of that, I haven't gotten those reports yet.
All right, Chief George Kalina with Miami City Police there. Thank you so much for your time on what we know is a very busy night. We do appreciate the opportunity to get your message out to people who are watching this unfold at home. Again, we thank you.
And now we're going to send it back to Franklin White, standing by live in the city of Miami. We've been watching Miami-Dade police in the area telling people to disperse. Franklin, have you moved? Where are you?
Yeah, we're in downtown Miami, right next to the AAA, and
all right, so we just lost Franklin White. He's just by the AAA, so near Bayside Marketplace, and you can see the law enforcement that is there. That's to the right. That's just the parking garage by Bayside Marketplace. Franklin is on the AAA side there of the street, but you can see just that line of police vehicles on the ramp, and I think we now have audio again. Franklin, are you there with us?
yeah, hopefully you can hear me. Let's go back to those pictures, Robin, as you guys were showing. This is a massive police presence on the Port Miami Bridge. Miami-Dade police aren't letting anyone onto the bridge or onto Bayside, where police are telling us there is confirmed looting. We went to try to show you some pictures of that looting happening here at Bayside, but we were told to get off property. So we came here and want to show you this is what you'll be met with if you come to downtown Miami. These police officers are not playing. They're kicking anyone and everyone out of the area. If you look right here in the intersection, cops aren't letting anyone park or drive down the street. This is usually a busy and bustling area, but you can see it's pretty empty besides the police and a few stragglers who were here protesting earlier. But again, we are here right next to the AAA, a massive police presence. We're told looting is happening just yards away at Bayside Park. But again, as you can imagine, police aren't letting anyone on that property. We're told to stay here. We actually were trying to get closer, but police were pushing us back and again threatening to arrest us. But again, that's what you'll be met with. You have police in riot gear, tons of police officers, tons of patrol cars, all here trying to keep the crowds from gathering. And again, in an area that's usually busy and bustling, it's pretty empty aside from cars driving by and police trying to keep this area clear. So we're bringing the latest. We're trying to get closer to this area, but we're going to move down. We'll bring you another live picture in a few minutes. Back to you, live in the studio.
Franklin, thank you. And as we continue to keep an eye on this situation in downtown Miami, another look for you now from near the Miami Police Department there on Northwest 2nd Avenue. This again has been a situation, if you're just joining us at 9:41 on Saturday night, what started as a peaceful protest around 3 o'clock this afternoon grew to a number in the hundreds. That group moved from downtown near the Torch of Friendship and then moved onto I-95 and started blocking off cars. They were ushered off 95. And what Miami's mayor is describing as a group of about 200 agitators did linger into the evening past what was going to be a 6 o'clock cutoff for this protest. And that is when we started to see some destruction, cars on fire. And at that point is when we saw police coming out in force to try and squash all of this. Remember, going back to what has sparked all of this from last Monday on Memorial Day, 46-year-old George Floyd, a black man killed, died while in custody with police. The officer that was apprehending him arrested and charged with third-degree murder, as well as another charge. So this is what we've seen spilling out from across the country and now into Saturday here on the streets of South Florida.
And we're going to send you now over to Rafael Pires standing by. That curfew is just minutes away. Goes into effect starting at 10 p.m. Rafael, what can you tell us about where you are and what you're seeing?
Yeah, you know, right where we're at, we actually just saw police kind of step away from that little section they were in right in front of the police department. I'm going to step out of the way so you can actually see. It looks like they started slowly coming back, but they had gone back out into the street. We did hear some loud pops. I couldn't tell if there was more tear gas being used or if the protesters were setting off some more sparklers. We did see some protesters slamming into another, or not slamming, excuse me, it wasn't another car. They were just banging on another police cruiser. They were throwing rocks at it and smashing the back windshield. Actually, we are going to have to start moving here, guys. Some of the special response team officers told us they were going to start arresting people here in just a couple of minutes, and they asked us to, they politely asked us to step back so we're out of this vicinity when they start making those arrests. As you said, as the police said, the police chief said, it appears there's only maybe a couple hundred, a few people who are actually agitating the violence and causing the commotion out here. So they said they're going to come in here, try to get those people out of the streets, and so we definitely don't want to be here when that starts happening, so we're going to talk back to you guys.
All right, Rafael, thank you. And this is the camera with Franklin White just moving down the street toward Biscayne, just next to the American Airlines Arena and the Bayside Marketplace, which is across the street where we saw some looting earlier today. Franklin, what can you tell us about where you are?
Okay, so we tried to give you, I want to show you how serious police are. We walked maybe 30 feet, and the moment we got that close to police, they threw tear gas our way, and we, of course, had to leave. They began yelling and walking towards us, so we, of course, as you can imagine, we moved. That's what's happening here. If you get anywhere near this area, police will go into a mode where they want to get you out of here. They threw tear gas our way, and as you can imagine, it's hard to breathe and see. So we're moving back. That's what's happening. If you come down to Miami, anywhere near the AAA, you'll be met with that. So we're going to do our best to find another live location or just stay back from police. But that, again, is what's happening here in downtown Miami, near the AAA, just yards away from where we're told looting is happening at Bayside Park. So we'll bring you an update soon. But again, if you come down here, you'll be met, Alex, show that, you'll be met with that and lots of tear gas. So that's the latest here in downtown Miami. More coming up. Reporting live, Franklin White, 7 News.
And Franklin, thank you. What he's showing you there is this line of police, law enforcement ready to go. Again, we want to remind everybody, because I did just see a couple of people walking behind Franklin White's view there walking behind him, there is now a county-wide curfew set for 10 o'clock tonight. That is in less than 14 minutes from now. And when I say county-wide, Miami-Dade's mayor saying that that is going to include every city. They do not want this to spread out. They do not want to see this go into any other areas. What we've seen here tonight with some vehicles set on fire, both civilian as well as police vehicles set on fire at this point. So tonight at 10 o'clock, a few minutes from now, there is going to be a county-wide curfew. 8 o'clock tomorrow night is when it is going to go back into effect. But as Franklin just said, these officers very serious. They're being very clear. Get off the streets. They wanted the streets cleared at 9 o'clock. The curfew is going into effect at 10 o'clock. So they are now getting ready to, it would appear, to move on out as we still see people out and about.
And something people need to keep in mind as well is that Miami-Dade Transit has been suspended. Metro Mover, Metro Rail, Metro Bus, everything has been suspended. So if you use public transportation to get around, you're going to need to find a different way to get around and to get out of off the streets so you are not caught up in this. Miami-Dade Police, City of Miami Police, both tweeting out they are imposing this curfew and they will be enforcing this curfew. Franklin White, if you're just joining us, described tear gas being lobbed toward him and his photographer as police are trying to get everyone off the streets, including the media. We've seen hours of peaceful protests after the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis at the hands of police on Monday, and then that changed. Mayor Francis Suarez of the city of Miami told us a more aggressive group, a smaller group, seemed to be converging on the streets. Later on in the evening, we saw a police cruiser on fire, a bystander's car on fire, cars vandalized as well, property damage. We've seen looting at Bayside Marketplace. So everyone is interested in supporting people using their First Amendment right to protest. 95 was shut down for at least a couple of hours during the day today as people poured onto I-95, people heading out to do shopping or just to get out of the house because many people are just heading out after this weeks-long stay-at-home order was in place. Stuck in traffic because of people protesting earlier today, but police, lawmakers have said we have no interest in seeing in Miami what we have seen in other cities across the country. Just absolute mayhem in some cases, businesses burned to the ground, officers and civilians injured. They don't want to see that here, so they are putting everything toward getting people off the streets.
They want to stop this here on night one, really, before it has a chance to go any further than it already has, with a couple of vehicles burned. And then again, what we saw about 30 minutes ago happening at Bayfront Park. Again, what you're looking at here are those officers getting ready. They have their shields. They have helmets, so they are going to be getting ready to roll out. When we spoke with Chief Kalina of the Miami Police Department just moments ago, he said he was being very clear on this. There was an emergency order issued immediately for a 10 o'clock curfew. He made no bones about it. People are going to be arrested if they are still out on the street. In his words, he said, we will not let people destroy our city in what is going to be, as of 10 o'clock, an unlawful assembly. Again, leaders here locally have said that they approved of a peaceful protest from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. By and large, we did see that unfold. Yes, people did end up on the interstate, but they did come back down. There was no destruction really of any kind during that point from what we could see. And then again, we've mentioned this throughout the evening. You put that up against what we saw in Coral Gables earlier, where Franklin White was earlier, and you did have a large group of people who at the end of that protest really had a chance to meet with their local leaders and have a dialogue with them about the events that transpired earlier in the week and making sure that the community is staying safe while being policed at the same time. So, of course, this is a much different situation now. And Robin, we've really talked about it throughout the evening, and the chief did confirm it there. What we've seen growing across the country in cities like Chicago, in Philadelphia, Los Angeles tonight, Minneapolis, of course, the epicenter of all of this. Our local leaders have really had a chance to watch all of this unfold the last few days, and they did put a plan into place. We watched as this started. Those protesters, if you want to go with what the mayor was calling them, agitators, professional agitators, in his words, went over to the Miami Police Department there on Northwest 2nd Avenue, and immediately the police were able to come out. They were suited up in their riot gear. They were ready to go. They pushed them back from the police department, and then as we saw nightfall within minutes at that point is when we saw Miami-Dade County police show up, as well as other officers ready in SWAT vehicles and geared up and ready to go. And it was not long after that the county curfew went into effect tonight for 10 o'clock. And here we are just under 8 minutes away from that at that point. So we will, of course, be keeping you notified when that goes into effect, because I don't doubt that you will start to see some movement amongst these officers as they continue to sweep the streets and make sure that people are not on them. Again, going back to what I said just moments ago, the chief of police says there will be arrests. They are not joking around with this. They want people home and off the streets.
And Miami Chief of Police George Kalina also has the perspective of not only being law enforcement, but someone who knows all too well what COVID-19 will do to you personally. And he is also trying to make sure that people understand, if you are out and there is tear gas lobbed in your direction, as we saw earlier tonight, it will cause you to tear, it will cause you to cough. We obviously know that intellectually, but now we have the added wrinkle of a pandemic that is running roughshod across this country and in South Florida in particular. And he is also warning people that if you are hit with tear gas, the coughing, the removing of whatever face covering you have, someone could be positive with the virus and not know it and spread it. And we've got people in close quarters possibly passing it on. So we've got a really dangerous situation, potentially the health issue as well as property, which people care about because they've in many instances spent their lives building something only for someone to come in, break a window, smash it, and steal their livelihood, essentially. We're also dealing with the economic impact of weeks of a shutdown in South Florida. And just little by little, from Miami-Dade to Broward, businesses are starting to open. Restaurants are starting to welcome customers back into their establishments. People are starting to go back to work who have not been working. We've covered day after day the food drives and food pickups for people who are in desperate need of food, because so many people in South Florida depend on tourism and those dollars which have dried up in this pandemic as well. So you've also got the economic impact that this is going to cause for businesses who, in some instances, are just able to reopen after the pandemic shut everything down. So we've got a lot of issues happening all at once, kind of the perfect storm, if you will, in South Florida.
And easier for anybody, and it does appear, by and large, people are listening. Stay home throughout all of this. There's no need to be going out. Obviously, police are going to be enforcing that curfew we've been telling you about in just a couple of minutes, but no need to go and check any of this out to see for yourself. Again, I want to remind you that the chief of police moments ago did tell us that they are ready to arrest anybody who is still on the streets, and they've been pushing everybody back at this point. Most of the crowds that we've been witnessing close to the police department, then over at Bayfront Park. They're moving quickly, but they've also been quick to disperse. Police quickly moving them so they do not stay in one spot and stop them from keeping these streets cleared, to keep everybody safe, to prevent any damage or destruction in a city, and really as a country continues to try and rebound from joblessness and people staying at home, not being able to earn a paycheck. So you're seeing police here doing their formation. They have someone in front of them waving them on. So, and here you are to the left of your screen. You do have a couple of people. I don't know if they're protesters or not, or again, just people out watching. But as you can see, they're starting to move back as police, as we've been telling you is going to happen. Police are going to start their movements now just around 10 o'clock to put that curfew into effect. They do not want anyone out here on the streets. So we'll be following this throughout the evening and continue to monitor as we take this one look for you here on the streets of Miami.
From 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. Again, Miami-Dade transit has been suspended. So if you know someone who is out, you're going to have to try to head out and get them if you're able to. You only have a couple more minutes before this curfew goes into effect. This is City of Miami Police lining up here to start the process. They said they are imposing this curfew as many other cities across the country have imposed curfews tonight. Now is the enforcement part of this curfew that has been put into place. Those protests that took place earlier today, peaceful, no arrests, no incidents,
大家好啊，
no injuries
新入嚟嘅網友，
from anyone.
多謝你哋嘅收睇。我要重複一下呢，呢次美國呢個遊行示威點解會發展到今日咁厲害呢？個原因就係喺星期一呢，有位黑人先生叫做 Justiceforfloyd。佢就係被警察拘捕，而佢拘捕嘅原因，因為係使用呢個偽鈔嘅。咁至於偽鈔嘅數目呢，就係一張20蚊美金。佢俾4名警察捉咗後呢，雙手呢就戴上手銬，然之後就推落地下。其中有一位警察呢，就用佢個膝頭將佢嗰個頸部呢壓落地下，總數呢壓咗6分鐘46秒。咁喺個情形之中呢，呢位 Justiceforfloyd 先生呢曾經高聲呼叫過呢，就話佢係唞唔到氣，唞唔到氣。咁呢就昏迷，然之後呢入院之後呢，就不幸呢就去世。喺呢個情形之下呢，好多影片呢係錄到呢當時警察嘅行為。好多人睇到之後呢，就覺得呢件事呢係警察呢過分用呢個武力，再加上呢，因為呢位 Justiceforfloyd 先生係美籍嘅黑人，係一個黑人種族，所以好多人呢覺得呢個行為呢，警察對佢哋嚟講呢係一種種族歧視。咁樣呢，最初呢，呢4名警察呢係冇俾呢個政府呢控告佢任何事嘅，仲係曾經話過呢，佢哋係合法嘅所做嘅嘢。但係就最後呢，琴日呢，就其中一位壓住 Justiceforfloyd 先生嘅警察呢，就被控呢個3級謀殺或者誤殺，其他3位警察呢，暫時都未有被控嘅，所以人民呢，就暫時仲係好不滿呢個做法。而今晚呢，各州各個城市呢，就已經會展開呢個戒嚴令，有啲地方呢8點鐘開始，有啲地方呢就10點鐘開始，亦加上琴晚呢各州加上各個城市呢已經向政府呢申請呢個國民後備 兵咧出嚟幫手維持呢個秩序㗎啦。咁琴晚最新消息咧，例如呢個明尼蘇達州咧，就總數人數呢個國民後備兵咧就有13000左右。而琴晚8個鐘頭前咧就係召集到大約3000名。咁至於佢哋嘅能力可以召集到幾多咧？就係有用呢個3000至13000人中間啦。咁至於佢哋能夠鎮壓到咧，咁就今晚先知啦。因為琴晚嘅戒嚴令咧就係冇咩用途。警方面咧係唔夠人手咧鎮壓呢個暴動嘅。所以至於今日咧係一個好關鍵性嘅一晚，咁就睇下個事情點樣發展咧。咁我哋會繼續咧向大家旁述。如果有咩新嘅消息咧，就會通知大家。喺呢度都係要再提一次，就係呢個直播唔係想醜化美國呢個遊行示威。而係想做一個借鏡咧，俾觀眾咧能夠對比一下，如果喺呢個遊行示威下邊所產生嘅武力，喺唔同嘅國家，佢哋會用咩方法處理咧？對比之下，香港呢年幾以嚟嘅暴動、遊行示威，香港警察所做嘅方法係咪合適咧、合當咧？呢度就希望大家可以細心睇下、比較下，然之後留言討論下啦。好，我哋嘅旁述會繼續嘅。
Little bit after that, we saw the fire department arrive here on scene where we're located, and they were working to put out those flames. We did hear from some of the people who were up close to those flames. They said that there were some of the protesters that were actually hurtling rocks and making it difficult for the fire department to put out some of those flames. They did get at least one vehicle completely put the fire completely out, but there was still a car behind these police officers out here that was still on fire. Now quickly, one more shot we want to show you here. That tear gas. You know, today the mayor said that he did not want these protests to get violent. He said that he did not want to have police officers wearing riot gear. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. We saw some violence take place out here, and we also saw tear gas being used here by some police officers. Once again, that shot of those police officers shoulder to shoulder. So once again, guys, it does look like they are coming out here and they're going to be making some arrests. I want to bring you guys back out here live. You can see here we've got some of the officers now making their way up here. We see some of the protesters actually just scattering behind us. They're running away because police say they are taking this curfew seriously. They do have some restraints with them, and they are coming after anybody who is out here in this area past curfew. I'm going to let you take a look over here. You can see just ahead of them more police presence. Some of those protesters now starting to scatter and make their way out of this scene. Once again, that curfew is now in place. If you are caught out here, police will arrest you. Reporting live from downtown Miami, Rafael Puris, 7 News.
Rafael, thank you. And as we continue to watch the police as they begin to move throughout Miami there, we want to take you now to another vantage point, this coming from 7's Franklin White, to explain what he's seeing where he is at. Franklin.
So, Joe, about 30 minutes ago, this was the Port Miami Bridge. It was filled with Miami police officers. We just saw about 20 cop cars speed away and head south. But again, earlier, as we showed you live on television, we walked towards those officers who were in full riot gear. The moment we got anywhere near them, they immediately threw tear gas at us, and that is what you'll be met with if you come to downtown Miami, anywhere near any police officers, as they work to get people off the streets and back home. We have video we want to show you. This was a scene earlier near the government center in downtown Miami. Police banging their shields. They were threatening the media, anyone in that area, to go home. If you were in that area past a certain time, you would be arrested. That again includes the media. They were banging their shields, forcing anyone off the streets. Our next video shows more police in riot gear in the back of SWAT units, searching the streets and scouring for any stragglers or anyone who was protesting. Again, those officers were there to tell anyone to go home, and again, they would be arresting anyone caught in those streets. Our next video is back here near the AAA at Bayside, where there are reports of looting at Foot Locker. You're seeing video of folks who broke into that Foot Locker and destroyed the area, breaking the glass, shoes scattered all across the floor. Again, people looting that area, getting away with hundreds of dollars worth of shoes from that Foot Locker at Bayside, clearing out and stealing what they could. That was looting again at Bayside Park, just yards away from this massive police presence here near the AAA. So we are working to get more information, get more video to show you what's happening at Bayside Park. We were kicked off property, and again, back here live, you can see, Alex, this right here is what you will be met with if you come to downtown Miami. Lots of police, lots of cops in riot gear, and if you show the street right here, a usually busy and bustling area is empty aside from unmarked police cars and police forcing people to go home. More on this story as we get more information and more video. Reporting live here in downtown Miami, Franklin White, 7 News Night Team.
All right, Franklin, and we'll head now up into the sky. 7's Ralph Rayburn above the scene in 7 Skyforce HD. Ralph, what can you tell us?
Well, we're going to give you a bird's eye view of what we've seen as you watch some police officers, both from the county and the city of Miami here, responding in and around the Miami Police Department right now. We're going to give you, this is a real-time look of what they're doing. They're clearing a perimeter around the police department building, and then what they'll do after that, they'll go out a couple of blocks and they'll do the same thing again. They'll do a sweep and they'll continue to extend it until they're satisfied that the protesters or the people that they want off the streets are off the streets, that they've established the upper hand in this situation, and that's what they're doing right now. They actually look like they're taking a little break. So we'll bring the camera back out here, and we're going to show you a couple of video clips from earlier today. As we look at the first one, you're going to see a crowd that had gathered, originally around 250, 300 people around the Torch of Freedom there in downtown Miami. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, people just started showing up. And we were trying to do head counts, and we just got lost in it. Several thousand people. They came west from Biscayne Boulevard, where the Torch is, down Northwest 8th Street, and ended up going to the entrance ramp, a scenario that we had seen earlier or seen previously, and to block the roadway on I-95. They did block northbound I-95 immediately, and police officers and an aviation unit, that's a police helicopter, let the Florida Highway Patrol know that they needed to block off I-95 northbound down at US 1 where it merges, and also from the causeway that comes over from Key Biscayne. They did that right away. Once that was breached, once the area right there on I-95 was blocked, they were able to, the folks, the protesters were able to cross over, again, all peacefully, and without any kind of rancor there. A lot of yelling and a lot of posters and a lot of that, but that was the extent of it. They blocked southbound, so the police department then asked Florida Highway Patrol to close I-95 southbound. They did that at the 836. So there was an area, a quadrant here that was closed off, the I-95 corridor. They did that. Let's go to our second piece of video there. I've got when it pops up here, I can start to talk about it. So it's going to be about a 4-second delay before. The car that you're seeing right there in the middle of the screen now, that was a plainclothes detective's car. Now you're looking at the front of the City of Miami Police Department, and this was right around the 6 o'clock hour, maybe a little bit after, when a group of people had started to gather around the west entrance to the police department. This is where police officers are the only ones have exclusive entrance into, where they change their clothes and they get ready to go to work, do their paperwork, all that other stuff. A crowd started gathering there, and we actually have some video. We can't show it to you right now, but we do have a close-up video of a protester taking a spray can and spraying some words on the side of a police vehicle. Somehow we'll get that posterized and try to show that to you a little bit later. We left to go get fuel, and by the time we came back from getting fuel, this had escalated into a rock and bottle throwing incident, and they set several cars on fire, as was reported. Tear gas canisters were used to kind of clear the crowd. Let's look at our third piece of video here. And again, I apologize, but technology gives us a 4-second delay. You're seeing the video actually before I do, and you'll see, there you go. And what you're looking at there, that's the Bayside area, and that's the mall from about 600 feet in the air after dark. And what you're seeing is some folks running right there across. They were hiding inside stores that were closed for the evening. People who had dealt with the coronavirus and had finally gotten a chance to reopen. These folks went in and helped themselves to stuff. You can see them running through the Bayside area. They exited right where the big flags are at the entrance to Bayside, crossed the street, and disappeared into the night as far as we know. Now, the police department did respond a short time later, receiving word that there was something going on there, and through social media and some other avenues, we did get some still pictures and some video of that scene inside, which I believe you guys have already seen. Let's come back out to our live picture. We'll give you a little bit of good news, and from the standpoint of what's going on. For the longest time, I-95 in this area, this corridor from down here, we're looking south right now as this disappears off past Brickell and into Coconut Grove. These roadways were closed in both directions. Take a look now. You've got traffic flowing in both directions. The only thing is you cannot exit anywhere near downtown. That's what the police department has decided is the safest bet until they've secured this entire area and they've convinced themselves that there aren't going to be any more fires set overnight and there isn't going to be any more looting. So that's pretty much the big picture, the picture from overhead, 700 or 800 feet up here. That's our story here in Skyforce HD. I'm Ralph Redden reporting live.
All right, Ralph, thank you for that update. And again, another live look for you right now. This over downtown Miami, as we look at some of these officers moving through. We want to remind you now that there is a curfew in effect. 11 minutes in, it started at 10 o'clock. It will run until 6 in the morning. It will pick up again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. But what you were seeing, and Ralph was just describing there, was the deployment of these officers throughout the city, clearing the streets, making sure that nobody is out there doing anything nefarious for the remainder of the evening. Hopefully there was ample time for anyone you know, if they were down around this area, to get out of the way and get home, or at least start heading toward home. But again, another live look for you at the officers on the street there.
And we do want to let you know, Miami-Dade Mayor Carlos Jimenez just tweeted a clarification for that curfew, that essential workers are exempt if they are traveling to and from.
各位網友好，喺度再補充一下，喺過去嘅8個小時、10個小時呢，多個地方嘅州政府同埋呢個市政府都有出嚟發表過唔同嘅發言。佢哋指責呢，就係話呢件事嘅遊行示威呢，係尤其是嘅暴徒搶掠嘅呢，係應該係一個組織性嘅行為，係有人呢係魚目混珠，借住呢次嘅遊行示威呢，係出嚟搶掠嘅。咁至於警方呢，就講過好多次，或者好多州長啊、市長就係話，人民係有權呢去呢個遊行示威。呢個呢就係少部分呢破壞者啊，去搶掠啊、打爛商鋪啊、毀壞汽車啊、燃燒汽車啊，呢批人就係佢哋係比較難控制嘅，所以今晚每個城市所舉行或者使用嘅禁制令，就係希望咧和平示威嘅一批人咧就留喺屋企，再唔好出嚟，而警方咧就能夠有足夠嘅人手咧去拘捕呢班出嚟搶掠嘅人。即係呢個場面大家都應該好熟啦，聽到好似香港咁樣，成年嚟發生過咁多嘅遊行示威，就係最初就係一個好和平嘅行動，但最後就係一班極端嘅人出嚟破壞事。無論點講都好，每一個人住喺佢自己嘅城市又好，喺唔同嘅國家都好，應該都知道唔想見到有咁嘅場面嘅。所以而家呢次喺美國發生嘅遊行示威，剛剛好就可以俾一個好好嘅借鏡俾香港，使到咧更多人能夠明白，就係如果每個國家或者每個城市當遊行示威發生嘅時候，警察係會點做，而唔好繼續咧就係將個事情講到唯一就係香港警察先係黑警，而所用嘅武力就係一個最惡劣嘅武力。 喺呢度希望各位網友可以將呢個直播呢轉介俾你嘅朋友去睇下。我哋嘅初心就係希望能夠多啲人能夠認識睇到喺唔同嘅國家之下發生同樣嘅事情係點樣，咁能夠去比較一下。至於覺得係點樣錯與對嘅，就希望留翻俾大家自己去討論啦。
Ralph, what can you tell us? Oh, well, we're just looking at his pictures. So you can see Miami-Dade.
It's Northeast 4th Street, 1 block off of let me see. Oh, no, it's farther off of Biscayne. Hold on a minute. It's 4th and about North Miami Avenue.
So 4th and North Miami Avenue where you
Yeah,
can
close
see...
enough. Close enough.
Okay. So that is where police have really started to focus their efforts at this point as they continue to push people out of the vicinity there. We did hear that people were potentially making their way over there. Again, police do not want anybody on the streets at this point. They wanted the streets cleared as of 9. The curfew went into effect at 10 o'clock. So you can see this police presence there at the corner, within the vicinity, Ralph says, of 4th and North Miami Avenue there. So that is the scene that we are looking at there. And as we've been witnessing all of this, again, to go back to the beginning, the origins of all of this, this is the outpouring, the anger, the pain of George Floyd's death earlier in the week while in the custody of Minneapolis police officers. Day by day throughout the week is the protest growing out in Minnesota. The heavy destruction, the burning of a police precinct out there, stores, corporate stores looted, liquor stores burned, and that has now spread Thursday into Friday into other cities. Again, we've seen this happening through Chicago, through Philadelphia, through Louisville, Kentucky. We've seen it in Los Angeles. Even today, we've seen in New York City some heavy protests there. Last night, late at night, they were also outside of the White House, these protesters. And again, today, there was a protest here in the city of Miami running from about 3 to 6, and it was after that 6 o'clock hour that once things started to head in a destructive direction, that the city really tried to put a squash to it as quickly as possible.
And one of the many surreal parts of all of this is tonight there was a fireworks show that still went off, and that fireworks show in the city of Miami was to honor first responders in the city of Miami as well as essential workers for what they have been providing the community in these weeks that we have been dealing with stay-at-home orders because of the coronavirus pandemic. So we're just a week, 2 weeks out of these stay-at-home orders, and now you've got people flooding the streets across the country and tear gas being deployed, people coughing, people in very close quarters, not respecting those social distancing orders that we've been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks. And something that the chief of police for the city of Miami talked about, he and the mayor both had COVID-19. Mm-hmm. So they know exactly what this disease can do to you. And they were under stay-at-home orders as well. And so they also want to make sure that people are keeping that whole public health issue in mind as well, and staying off the streets and being careful when you're exercising your First Amendment rights. And now we're looking at this video from Ralph. We see Miami police, guns drawn, do not know what the situation is, but this curfew went into effect starting at 10 o'clock tonight. We know they have been looking for people. They've been told to clear the streets, get off the streets. You will be arrested if you are found in violation of this curfew. And this all comes about because of an emergency order signed into place by the Miami-Dade mayor, Carlos Jimenez, after seeing those police cars set on fire and vandalized, civilian cars set on fire as well. And we are watching these officers in, that blind corner coming around. And that's always a very dangerous situation. But they've said we are imposing this curfew and we are absolutely going to enforce it. So please, if you are not an essential worker, you need to be off the streets across Miami-Dade County because they do not want to see repeated here in South Florida what they've seen across the country. And today was an especially challenging day for law enforcement in cities across the country, and also for those protesters who really do want to come out to share their frustration, their anger, their pain at the death of George Floyd. But what law enforcement agencies and lawmakers have described from city to city to city is a different element that is coming out in the evening, causing destruction, causing damage. Now, City of Miami police told people to stay away from downtown Miami and from Wynwood. I'm not sure exactly where this is, but you can see some debris in the front of that store as Miami police are on the move. We don't have the benefit of knowing exactly what is going on. I wasn't sure exactly where this is. I don't know that we've seen. I believe this
might be 26th Street that we're looking at. I was trying to get a look at the signage there, but Robin has.
Yeah, I see North Miami Ave, and I don't know the cross street. But it is City of Miami police.
And what you're seeing here really is just them doing what they do. I mean, sweeping through. You can see the front of one of the businesses was smashed there, what we saw at Bayfront Park. And a lot of the boxes from inside the store were then pulled out onto the street. So clearly this is a police presence responding to what was likely an alarm in that area. And you see somebody being loaded into the back of the police cruiser at this point. Police going through that shopping center. Very quickly, you saw about 4 of them going through the back, guns drawn. They were sweeping through. You saw them approach that car. It appeared as though they quickly checked somebody out, that person letting them know who they were. They then moved on. But now here is another person being placed into the back of a cruiser outside of this business that appeared to have somebody broken into it and maybe grabbing some things.
It looks to be the Wynwood area. I'm not 100% sure, but we're going to send you to a quick break. You are watching The Night Team at 10.
I want to tell you about my goal when you become a client of Neufeld Kleinberg and Pinker.
After you've been in an accident, there are important decisions that you need to make.
My goal is for you to get the best medical attention possible.
We'll guide you through the process.
Visit us at NeufeldLawFirm.com.
Now that the world has been put on hold, it's time for our imagination to come to life. Stay Home Miami, brought to you by the Children's Trust.
They're leaders, they're fighters, they're achievers, and now they're graduates. Congratulations to the class of 2020 from Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
They receive some type of message where they will all move in and disperse the crowd. Now, they haven't done it here, but we have seen them disperse crowds in other intersections. So they receive some type of command. They haven't done it here. And then when they receive that command, they immediately advance. They shoot these rubber bullets. Now, every time we've seen them use these rubber bullet weapons, they shoot them at the ground. And then it seems like from what we observed, they bounce up at the protesters. They have not dispersed them here. We don't know what's going to happen. Things here change every minute. You can be standing by, things look calm, and then something blows up and you got to run away. So we have to be on our feet just like the officers. Right now, you have a lot of vehicles coming in, driving up. You can hear them honking. And, you have vehicles like, for example, this pickup truck just pulled up with officers. You have another car, they come, they communicate. So from what we observe, there's a lot of commands that come in last minute. We have another group of officers about a block east of here marching in this direction. So from what we've seen earlier, I would imagine that they're waiting for more reinforcements at this intersection to start moving in. Earlier, when we had a similar standoff over on Beverly and Fairfax, they stood this way and they waited for officers to come. Even the sheriff's department joined them, and then they moved in towards the crowd. Now, the problem is that every time they disperse these crowds, the people come back 10, 15, 20 minutes later. So it's a very difficult process for the officers. And you can see one of the vehicles with a person sticking their body outside this. It looks like a white SUV, and this is the scene right here at this intersection as more officers just to our right, they're arriving, and it looks like they have these cardboard boxes where they carry what appears to be the rubber bullets, the munition, this non-lethal force that they utilize. So every now and then we see the officers run back, load up, and then they will come back. So maybe they could have been waiting for more of these. We've seen this happen every hour. You see trucks come by, unload the boxes, and the officers load up on these what appear to be canisters that have the rubber bullet on the top. So and we have more reinforcements coming in over right behind my photographer. So we're going to be here. I expect them to have more officers arrive, and they will probably try to disperse this crowd when they have, because one of the other things let me mention, earlier when we did see the police line advance, they did have more officers. They had more numbers. We have not seen a small group of officers like this one. This is I could imagine it's about 100 to 150 officers. We haven't seen a number like this move in. Usually it's been larger groups of officers that do these movements to disperse the crowds.
All right, Guad, we certainly thank you. And Guad Venegas on Beverly Boulevard. Certainly the problem here is we're counting down to the curfew. It's 7:27. Curfew goes into effect at 8 o'clock tonight. So right now we're going to go topside to Bill Lavis, I believe, in News Chopper 4 Bravo.
嘅8點啦，佢哋嘅戒嚴令開始啦，但係目前到而家咧，出咗嚟嘅人群咧仲冇退回嘅現象，暫時仲係同警察對峙嘅。遲啲呢個國民後備軍會唔會出嚟咧？呢個就係一個問題啦，亦係今晚咧最重要嘅一個事情。至於佢哋出嚟之後會係點做咧？咁希望大家繼續留意落去啦。
And so far that we have not seen any fire through the roof, but the LA City Fire Department having to fight it from the outside, not being able to get inside, at least at this point from the front. Now Melrose is completely shut down because of this fire, and the fire department trying to get this thing knocked down is pretty stubborn. As you can see, they've been putting water through the front windows of the structure for about a half hour now.
And Gil, do we believe this started because of protesters in the area?
You know, I didn't hear that. We haven't gotten confirmation as to if there were protesters here on Melrose or not, but we're trying to work on that and get that information for you.
You know, it's interesting as I look at this picture compared to what we saw last night. The firefighters really seem to be trying to protect their fire hoses. You may remember there was a fire at an intersection downtown, and some of the protesters jumped in and tried to burn the hoses. Remember that, Gil?
Yes, I remember seeing that. They threw the hose into the flames itself. So at this point, they have good protection. You see the LAPD blocking off the intersection here. There are some bystanders along the road here, but it looks like the fire department is free and clear of any protesters that are able to work this fire and try to get it knocked down. It looks like they're starting now to get a good handle on the fire, less smoke coming out of the building.
All right, thank you, Gil, a nail salon there. They're trying to get that out. Looks like they're doing a good job. We're going to switch over to News Chopper 4 Alpha and Megan Reyes, where we see in the Fairfax district on Fairfax another fire. And Megan, it looks like some looting there as well, broken glass.
Yeah, Kathy, we got a lot of looters here along Fairfax Boulevard. This is just north of Beverly, south of Melrose, not too far from where Gil Levis is. We have a couple of fires here. You can see they are setting fire to debris in the roadway. And actually, at one point, we saw an individual throw a Molotov cocktail at law enforcement officers. Fortunately, it did not. Look at this. This is Fairfax here. Let me show you where the law enforcement officers, we have at least 3 small fires that have been set. Now, what happens is fire department, they're staging. They're ready to put out these fires, but they cannot do that until law enforcement officials, LAPD, can make sure that it's safe for the fire department to get there. Now, fortunately, it is just debris in the middle of the roadway, no buildings, but I can tell you right here, I saw one of these buildings right over here. The glass has been broken, whatever type of building that is, the name Dope, I can imagine what that is, but they have looted it. They've gone inside. We see people going in and out of that particular building. Some of these buildings here, fortunately, have better protection. Look at this knucklehead right there. He is graffitiing this building right here. So these are the people that are causing problems. Now, earlier, as we heard the Mayor Garcetti say, the people at the front of the protest usually are the peaceful ones, and we did see a couple of people just standing right here in front of LAPD officers. They did have their, they were just peacefully protesting with the sign. It's the people in the back that are creating a lot of the pandemonium and the chaos, and you can see with all these fires, and look at these cars. These people are involved as well. They're coming up, and look, here's another business. Hopefully they're not going to loot this particular business here, but we are, again, on Fairfax, just south of Melrose, where we have a third fire right now, and in fact have to pull out a lot of profanity, so we have to be careful what we show, but that fire right there, a lot of debris, and that's the third one we saw here on Fairfax.
Boy, right in the middle of the street there. As I mentioned, we're getting very close to curfew at 8 o'clock, less than 30 minutes at this point. Megan, are you starting to see any of the numbers diminish at all of protesters?
No, unfortunately not. In fact, you know what, Colleen? I think it's going to get worse at nighttime. Despite the mandatory curfew, we are seeing more people. And this is just one area. I mean, Gil Levis is over Melrose, where we have a group of people. And then we have hundreds of people over by the Grove, and they have been dispersed. We saw folks along 3rd Avenue, 3rd Street and Fairfax. They've been pushed in an easterly direction. But then you have a rough crowd over on Beverly and the Grove Drive. That's where law enforcement officials, they've just been in a constant battle deploying that tear gas, trying to push that crowd further back. And we've been witnessing from the helicopter the type of behavior. They are vandalizing buildings and breaking the windows. And we're going to try to see, again, I'm going to zoom in here. You see more debris, but I'm concerned about this building right here. I see a bunch of people just kind of gathering in front of this location. And that's kind of what they do. They just stand here, and then that's when they just go to action, start breaking those windows, get inside and see what they can do. And again, it's these people who are running away. These are the people who are the troublemakers. They are causing the problems for a lot of these people here, law enforcement officers as well.
Megan, can you swing, sorry, Kathy, can you swing back around that civilian car that was in the middle of the road? There's a guy in a red shirt. No, back around the corner there.
The one parked lengthwise,
it was
like across the
perpendicular. Guy in a red shirt, it almost looked like he was confrontational with some of the protesters. No, it was back around the corner there.
I think it was a red car. Was it a red car?
No, it was kind of bronzy. You know what? We'll try to figure it out. There it is, just ahead of that fire.
Okay, guys.
Now you've got a couple of fires there, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to find that car. And if you guys can see the picture, you can lead me toward it. But we're seeing a lot of these cars, whether or not they're instigating, whether or not they're getting this type of confrontation with people down below. I'm seeing evidence of maybe a flashbang grenade right now. But I mean, look at that fire. That fire is really picking up right now. So if you guys,
tilt down there, maybe took off.
Yeah, 已經係當地嘅時間8點鐘。 咁點解洛杉磯會變成一個咁重要嘅地方呢？就因為咧喺1992年咧，曾經亦係目前最後一次為咗種族事件咧發生呢個大型嘅遊行示威同埋騷亂嘅。所以今晚喺洛杉磯對於當地嘅政府或者警察嚟講咧，係一個好重要嘅一個環節。如果今晚佢哋能夠有辦法將呢個人群推散，或者令到人示威者咧能夠平靜落嚟咧，可能咧就呢件事情咧會可以告一段落。但目前到而家咧，所有出嚟遊行示威嘅人咧，就係藐視緊呢個戒嚴令嘅。咁至於92年呢個大型嘅遊行示威同埋騷亂咧，亦係同樣個情形下就係警察咧係指控用咗一個唔適當嘅情形之下咧殺死咗一位黑人，叫做 Randy Grant 嘅。咁詳細情形咧，我再同大家報道。
So we just don't know what's happening. We want to bring in Robert Kovacic, though, because he has been talking to the mayor of Beverly Hills, talking about that curfew that is going to go into effect in about 25 minutes. They are really trying to put an end to this.
Yeah, if we look at how this sort of went down today, Kathy, it started with there was going to be a curfew in downtown LA, the area of so much concern last night. That was going to go into effect at 8 o'clock. Then the cities adjacent to this Fairfax district where you're looking at right now, West Hollywood and Beverly Hills, decided to put their curfews in place at 8 o'clock. And then the mayor responded by saying the entire city of LA is going to be under curfew at 8 o'clock. And so now, what is the situation in Beverly Hills, an area where protesters said they were going to target, and they have been successful? Let's get some answers by bringing in Mayor Lester Friedman. Mayor, thanks for joining us. I would like you to start and tell us what you know in terms of the number of demonstrators you have in Beverly Hills right now, as well as the damage that ensued.
Well, Robert, during the day we had probably 2,000 to 3,000 plus protesters. During the day, it was primarily peaceful. All of a sudden, there was a big change just around 5 o'clock or so, where it got to be violent, and there were people who decided that they wanted to loot as opposed to having a peaceful protest, which was the way it was earlier in the day.
Were they successful? Did they gain access into some of these stores on Rodeo?
They certainly attempted to. There were a couple of breaches, but I don't have any statistics in terms of if there was anything that was retrieved. There were some broken windows. There was a lot of graffiti and spray paint during the latter part of the afternoon.
When you consider the curfew that begins at 8 o'clock, and Mayor Friedman, we talked to you a couple of weeks ago when the city of Beverly Hills said if you don't wear masks, you could possibly be cited. I imagine tonight in Beverly Hills, you mean business as well for the people that you were telling to stay off the streets tonight in about 20 minutes.
Well, we want to ensure the safety of our citizens, visitors, and law enforcement personnel. And yes, there will be strict enforcement of the curfew starting at 8 p.m.
When you say strict enforcement, what do you mean there, sir?
People are only permitted to go to their homes if they are coming into the city. If they are leaving the city because they want to go to their homes, they can. But other than that, there are no visitors that are coming into the city just to hang around.
How tense is the situation getting
大
there
家好，
right
唔
now?
好意思，要補充一下，關於頭先講到洛杉磯92年最後一次呢個種族大騷亂嘅事件啊，呢個 Randy Grant King 呢係一位黑人啊，當時佢被捕嘅時候呢，佢係俾人影到呢，佢係俾多名嘅警察呢毆打嘅。 佢嘅死咧就唔係當時係佢喺92年嗰陣時候咧先去逝世嘅。咁至於個詳情咧，我一陣間有資料咧先再同大家分享啦。
So they're pretty much targeting that real estate then on Rodeo Drive.
Primarily, it was the business district, which includes Rodeo Drive, correct.
Do you have enough resources to be able to handle the night as we move forward?
We are bringing in additional resources. Again, supplemented by the Sheriff's Department, who is bringing in additional resources for us also.
Mayor, Robert, I have a quick question for the mayor
Sure.
here.
Colleen, I just want to point out to everyone that we are speaking with Mayor Lester Freeman from the city of Beverly Hills tonight.
Mayor, do we have any numbers? Do you have any numbers on the groups of protesters there? How large were the groups? What kind of arrests were there? Were there citations, people detained?
Well, in terms of the numbers of people, during the day, there were probably 2 to perhaps 4,000 people. As it got later in the evening, there were groups of about 1,000 people. Don't have or detainments.
But there were arrests.
I don't have any statistics.
Okay.
How about injuries to the men and women of the BHPD?
There are a couple minor injuries that we've had, nothing major.
No one had to be hospitalized or anything like that, sir?
Not that I'm aware of at this time.
And before we let you go, Mayor Freeman, so we have this situation right now where the protests that started in downtown LA, start to move west here. Are you coordinating with other cities surrounding you as to how you will proceed in the night ahead?
Yes, we are, and we are even requesting assistance from cities that are outside of our immediate jurisdiction.
Such as?
In the Inland Empire, I'm not exactly sure which cities.
To bring in extra reinforcement.
That is correct.
And you're able to get that reinforcement because they don't anticipate trouble there?
Haven't confirmed it yet, but that is the rationale that's being used.
And Mayor Freeman, we look at a curfew tonight at 8 o'clock, going to see this curfew extend in Beverly Hills and as you speak with other cities?
Obviously that's an issue that we're going to address tomorrow. It is something that has not been determined, but if there are the numbers, we anticipate there are going to be numbers like today, that the answer would be yes.
Colleen?
I'm kind of surprised. We hadn't heard that the groups were so large in and around Beverly Hills. 2,000 to 4,000, you said, Mayor, and perhaps as many as 1,000 there right now?
The 2,000 to 4,000 was during the day, and that was cumulative. Yeah. There were different waves of people coming in. Right now, I would not say there's 1,000, but I would say that earlier, perhaps an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, the answer is yes, there were approximately 1,000, maybe 1,200 people.
You've seen some of the damage that we saw last night in downtown L.A., some of the areas around the Grove now and Fairfax. Was the damage anything like this in your city?
It was not as extensive as what we saw in the city of L.A. Our police department did an excellent job in containing the damage that could have occurred, but the city of L.A. did sustain more significant damage than we did.
All right, we are only 15 minutes away from the curfew at this point. Have you spoken with the police department there to find out what the exact plan is? What's your game plan to have protesters out of your city?
Well, I do not have the specific information, but they are going to start pushing people. It'll be a coordinated effort to get them out of the city and into other areas and dispersed.
And with that said, Colleen, Mayor Freeman, it appears that the city of Beverly Hills did take a proactive approach. We had viewers sending us video earlier today of shops being boarded up on Rodeo, shops where the boards had been taken down in anticipation of some of these high-end retail stores opening up, only to be boarded up again. Did you have ideas this was coming? You had some good resources. And what plans had you already put in place?
Well, their decisions to board up. There were only a few, maybe even only a couple that actually did board up. As the day progressed, I think more of them felt compelled to do so, but there was not a coordinated effort to board up. We did have resources available. Our police department trained for this and checked all their equipment, and were ready for what was going to happen.
And again, this comes, Colleen and Mayor Freeman, on a Saturday where you were anticipating so many of those businesses getting a chance to open their doors and to finally let people back inside.
Yes, and it's really a shame because the peaceful protesters had every right to protest, and during the day it was appropriate. Unfortunately, there are people who wanted to take advantage of it, and it's extremely unfortunate that is what happened.
All right, Mayor, we thank you for joining us today or this evening right now. And as we said, we're only 15 minutes away from this curfew. What we're looking at right now is what appears to be a fire that is growing, a bonfire, if you will. Gil Levis over the scene in News Chopper 4. Gil, can you give us the intersection here?
Colleen, this is the intersection of Fairfax Avenue and Rosewood Avenue. You're looking at the protesters feeding the flames here with more and more debris. I believe this started with the plastic trash cans that were set on fire. You can see how they've melted there on the street. A team of officers just south of this one. Here also the protesters feeding the flames as well as the burning pile there. So again, it just continues to grow. Looks like we're seeing some fireworks also being fired off in the area.
And Gil, we're seeing a lot of cars driving through the area. We see the fires and the police line. Are you seeing fewer protesters in this area?
Yeah, there's fewer protesters. They've kind of spread out, and they're going actually back north again on Fairfax. You can see them going by the high school there. Some of them have stopped to watch what's going on. Again, this is the area where we've seen some looting going on. In fact, there might be some happening right here at this store. We'll try to get on to the east side of that street so you can see what's going on there. But again, you see cars trapped in here. It's unclear. Some of them are protesters' cars. Some of them are just people that unfortunately made their way into this area and got trapped. But again, this fire, look at this. It's really growing big here. It's almost stretching to the center of the street.
You know, we have with us on the phone as we continue to look at your picture, Gil, Reverend Juma Smith-Pollard. And Reverend, thank you for joining us. I understand you just spoke with the mayor.
Yes, we were with the mayor earlier this afternoon for his press conference. He did, yes.
And what would be your message to people you're seeing on the screen right now?
Listen, it's a tough time, period. And hearts are broken. People are hurting. There is a lot of pain. There is anger. There is frustration. There is a need for, there's not a need, there's a desperation for things to change systematically. And so we stand in solidarity with those who are righteously protesting for change and righteously protesting for systematic change. But what we don't want to encourage is the mayhem. As we were with the mayor earlier, the mayor asked those who are doing the mayhem to please step back. We also ask the officers to take a step back, not physically, but like both sides, let's take a step back and breathe, because we can protest. We can speak truth to power. We can demand justice. And we can do that with power and do it responsibly. And my encouragement to protesters is to definitely, those who are doing righteous protesting, do it. Live in power. That was the message. But we also can't afford the destruction in the way that we're seeing it, not because it's better or, there's a responsibility that comes with gaining power. And this kind of destruction at this level, we've seen it in the past, and it doesn't lend to the kind of change that we want to see for the justice of Black lives, for the justice of, those who are, all of us who are feeling and who have lived through the difficulties of the system that does not put the victim and families first always. So my message to those who are protesting, who have the message, the right message, who are advocating for justice, who are advocating for systematic change, is like, let's do that, because that is our right and it's the right thing to do. But to the few, and it's just a few,
it is,
as the mayor said earlier, the 1% that's creating the mayhem, we plead with them to take a step back.
And yes, we're watching it. We're watching it live right now on the air, the mayhem you're talking about, and yet so many people are behind your message. You minister, you're a community activist, you're a life coach. How do you reach the few so that we don't have to see scenes like this?
I think the way we're doing it right now, and what people have to understand is that there are conversations happening in small groups, in communities, other pastors, other faith leaders, other community activists who are having these conversations. They're not all broadcast. They're not all seen on television. So it would appear that there's nothing being said, but people are working. The challenge is in times like these, when that fire, when that place in people is sparked, it's hard you can't quench it. And here's the other thing. We can't just attack the symptom without also speaking to the virus or the bacteria. It's about saying to those who are protesting or those who are commanding, you stop what you're doing, calm down. We also have to continue to speak truth to power. And both sides need to be addressed. It's not one or the other. And so to my brothers and sisters that are out there, I would say, if you continue to live in power and stand up and speak truth to power, because that has to happen. That is the right thing to do. And to those who are out there and they're just taking advantage of an opportunity, we ask you to step aside. To our allies, we say thank you. To those families who are heartbroken, who are watching on the news, who've gone through these experiences with police brutality and other injustices, we say, we see you. I was one. I've been there. I know what the system, how it plays out, and it's not fair. It's not right. But we want to encourage protest that leads to systemic change, institutional change for Black lives and for everybody in the end, because Black Lives Matter, period. But at the same time, when Black lives are taken care of, all lives are taken care of. And so that's what we just have to continue to push that message and know that, and people need to know that there are community leaders out there. There are clergy of all faith traditions. There are other activists. I'm just one. But there are so many out there having conversations. There are many that are out there right now with the protesters who are trying to, continue to push the right message and to push the right energy so that the justice can be, the justice change that we need to see happens. So I don't want people to get mistaken that it's not happening. There are a lot of people working to see a better, not just a better LA, but a better nation.
It's interesting, Reverend and Kathy. We've been watching this. I was trying to read the awning here. I think it's Maxim's restaurant, but next to that, this would appear to be a shoe store or some sort of sporting goods store. It looks like the LAPD is moving in. Reverend, when you see things like this, do you worry it will taint the message that you want to get out?
My worry is it hinders those who have the right message. It hinders their message from being heard loud and clear. That's my concern. Those who have the right message, those who really are out there who want to see systemic change, I worry that this kind of destruction, this kind of mayhem, it's not going to stop it, because people who are truly for justice will always continue to rise up, but it drowns, it clouds it, and it makes it difficult to hear, because now the efforts are towards putting out fires, and the efforts are towards, these accounts, and not being able to hear the voices of those that are really out there who want to see justice. And there's no judgment on anyone. It's just the disruptors and those that are creating mayhem. We need them to step back and let those who are out there who are really fighting for justice, really fighting for systemic change, really fighting against white supremacy and all of it. We need their voices amplified more. Those are the voices we need to hear.
Sometimes when we hear from protesters, we hear, well, we're angry, and, this is how we're showing our anger, and you can see them, they are releasing that feeling, but it's not a solution. It may feel good now to vandalize and to torch a police car in the moment, but tomorrow, all they've done is destroy the community, and it's not going to make them feel better. It's not going to solve anything.
Let me say it this way. There is definitely an attention that is being drawn to the issues. However, the issues, the root issues are being drowned out because there's concern about other things happening in our city. And so we have to continue to amplify the right message that we want justice. We have to continue to amplify the right message that we want systemic change. And that's what just has to happen. And those leaders, the leaders that are out there, the leaders like myself and others, there's so many, we have to continue to push the right message and amplify the right message. And what I do appreciate about our mayor is our mayor supports protesting. He supports people amplifying their message. He supports it. And so we support that. But when there are other things happening that just takes away from the message of change that we really need to hear and really need to get behind.
We're 3 minutes away from this.
And I can't speak to how people, and let me say this, I can't speak to how people will feel. I don't know, I'm not in their body to know how they'll feel. And we are both saying the same thing. People are angry, people are sparked, and they're angry. And but I can't speak to how someone can feel. All I can speak to is that we have to keep amplifying the right message of justice and systemic change, and we have to get behind that and ask and request of those who are creating mayhem to please step back, because there is a message that needs to go forward, and that message of getting power, that message of justice change, that's the message that we have to keep amplifying.
Reverend, I have a question for you, but before we do that, I just want to let people know that that area we were looking at is Flight Club LA. That's the store. Apparently, it's a high-end shoe store, caters to celebrities and athletes. And I would say, we're watching people walk out with trash bags full of things. You won't see that. Taking the looting and the violence away from all of what we've seen the past couple of days, are you encouraged at all by what you're seeing? The fact that the death of George Floyd really resonates across the board, whether it's your age group or your ethnicity, people are angry about this.
Right. I am encouraged that George Floyd's life being taken, I'm encouraged by the Black lives that continue to stand up for themselves and continue to say, we are not having it, we're not having it anymore. I am encouraged by the allies that say we want to stand with, our African-American Black folks. We want to stand with you. I'm encouraged by our allies. I'm encouraged by the young people that are just now seeing some of this stuff for the very first time, but they want to get engaged. I'm encouraged by our leaders who are supporting it. So I'm encouraged in that way. I'm encouraged by that. I'm not encouraged, with people walking out with shoes. I don't know, that doesn't encourage me, but I am encouraged by those who saw that and felt that and stood up and said, no, it's not okay. And it's not okay. Yeah.
And now, as we approach 8 o'clock, what would you like to see for these people to peacefully go home? I'm sure.
I get home safe so you can live in power for another day, right? That's my hope, is that people get home safe to live to see another day. To see another day to live, to see another day to change the hand of justice. And so that is the order that's been given, that there's an 8 o'clock curfew. And I don't want to see nobody get hurt. I don't want to see nobody get arrested. So I don't, as a mother, as a woman, as a black woman, no, I don't want to see that for nobody, not at all. And I want to encourage people to please get home safe so you can see another day of fighting for power, so you can see another day of standing up for justice. You can see another day to fight for systemic change.
All right, Reverend Smith-Pollard, we certainly thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I hope your message resonates with some of the people, although, you know, they're out there right now, and perhaps they will hear it later on. You mentioned...
Perhaps. And the other side is that there are other people listening and who can encourage. So we're not discouraged by the ones that are just out there that may not be listening at this moment to the news, because they have family and friends who can encourage them to maybe take a step back.
You're absolutely right.
Our hope is not lost. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here with us. Thank you so much. We should tell you right now it's 8 o'clock. You are watching a special edition of the NBC4 News. And you may have received an alert on your phone. A citywide curfew for Los Angeles has just gone into effect. So if you leave your home for any non-emergency reason, you could be subject to arrest. The cities of West Hollywood and Beverly Hills also announcing similar curfews that, Colleen, also went into effect at 8 o'clock.
You know, Kathy, we've been talking about resources this afternoon, the LAPD, the Sheriff's Department. We do know that LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva has just called for a limited activation of the National Guard. They've been asked to be placed on standby here. And again, we've been watching the looting here. This is Flight Club LA. It's a high-end shoe store, and I suspect we've been watching this for 15, 20 minutes. There can't be any inventory back inside there.
No, we see people going in and out there. They're gathered there at this location. We've seen storefronts across L.A. being vandalized and looters breaking into Nordstrom, going out with shoes and other items at the Grove, as well as other stores on Fairfax Avenue. We've been watching it all with our colleague, NBC4's Robert Kovacic. You've been talking with the mayors of several cities and other leaders about this curfew going into effect. Right now, it lasts until 5:30 in the morning. And Santa Monica also now implementing the same kind of a curfew. They're really hoping to stop this in one night. But Robert, what are you hearing? We understand the mayor of LA says they'll extend it if they have to.
The mayor has more to say than that, Kathy. When we spoke with Mayor Garcetti an hour ago, he had to get off the phone to get on the phone with Governor Newsom. And when he spoke with Governor Newsom, we can now confirm Mayor Garcetti has asked for the National Guard to be deployed, saying that this is no longer a protest. Now, if we could just go back real quick to that sneaker store, that flight shop, anyone that has been in this area, you will always see a long line of people outside of this flight club, and that is because it is a consignment shop for very rare sneakers. I've been texting back and forth with our photographer, Kenny Holmes. He knows this store very well. This is a place where, no joke, the lines just go down the block and then some for people waiting to get these very rare sneakers, and now they have the opportunity to get whatever they want at their will as they break into Flight Club here. So as we look at the situation, the curfew is now in effect that you heard for the first time hours ago. It is a curfew that is in effect for the entire city of Los Angeles. And it spreads. It heads west into West Hollywood. It heads west into Beverly Hills. The mayor of Beverly Hills telling NBC4 that they have asked for additional resources, and they are coming from the Inland Empire. Those resources would be coming to assist the Beverly Hills Police Department, not knowing what the night ahead is going to look like. And Kathy and Colleen, you know, just from looking at other cities around the country, that the darker it gets, sometimes we have more to be concerned about, because at night people tend to get a little more free and what they want to do. On the right side of your screen, these are the shots from Rodeo Drive. This is Beverly Hills, boarded up a little earlier, and you can see that some of the people came and put boards up anticipating problems here, because social media had trended all night long and throughout this morning that these protests were going to target specific areas. Where were they going to target? They wanted to target the Grove. Check, they've done that. They wanted to target Rodeo Drive. Check, they've done that. Damage to some luxury stores there, a number of tagging. And then you have right now what's going on in the Fairfax district, right there on Fairfax Boulevard, that is very close to the Grove, that is very close to 3rd Street and Pan Pacific Park, where that peaceful protest started and where then everyone started marching and then marching towards those West Side communities. And this is the situation right now at Fight Club. What we can tell you then, from what we've discussed with the mayor's office, is that they are going to continue to watch the situation very carefully. Mayor Garcetti had said earlier when we spoke with him, Colleen, you remember that he was going to get on the phone with the governor. He has now finished that conversation with the governor. He has talked to his resources here, including the LAPD, as to what happens next. And it appears that LA cannot go this alone, and we need the National Guard, because in the words of Mayor Garcetti, what you are looking at right now is no longer a protest. It is no longer people just expressing. It is people breaking the law, creating damage, and it can become, and it has become, a violent situation, as we saw last night in downtown Los Angeles. And as we have talked to other mayors, there have been injuries to civilians as well as to authorities.
And Robert, it's the second time we've seen the National Guard called up in just a few weeks. They've been in Southern California, in LA County specifically, for COVID-19 testing. Now, as we continue to look at this particular shot here, what we have seen this afternoon is a number of spot fires, except for one that was actually a police kiosk that was just on the outside of the Grove near the Nordstroms there, that was set on fire this afternoon. And again, several fires along Fairfax. Gil Levis over the scene in News Chopper 4 right now. Gil, we are past 8 o'clock. It's 8:07 at this point. Are you seeing any pushback from police trying to get the protesters to leave the area?
They have pushed northbound here up all the way up to Rosewood, where that major fire, the third one, the largest one, and that seems to be starting to go out. And just north of there, that's where the looting is happening at that Flight Club LA store. Now, one interesting thing I was noticing as people were looting and continuing to go in and out of the store, they were bringing the merchandise out to vehicles that were parked along the street just north of the shop, and then going back for more. And we're watching that happen. In fact, there's a group of people that have brought merchandise right here just north in the parking lot, and they're going through it. They're sorting through it, seeing what they got, and then they run back in for more. It's unbelievable to watch this happen. And like you said, Colleen, it's hard to believe that there's still merchandise left in this store, because we've been watching it for 20 minutes.
How much inventory could they possibly have?
It's unbelievable. I keep thinking that it's going to be it, and then more and more go back in and pull out handfuls and handfuls. Also, I'm noticing that people are running down the street with their merchandise here. You see them walking here, but earlier I was watching a group like this guy running here. They were having to dodge other people that were trying to steal their merchandise. There you go. There's a kick to that group there. They drop the gear, and then they move in and grab it. So it's unbelievable. This guy just grabs them, throwing it in the car, and we're watching groups that are just waiting for people to come out with merchandise. Like this guy kicked the guy to trip him, and then they pick up his merchandise and take it. So it's unbelievable. This is actually happening here on Fairfax, and it continues to happen. Look at, just when you think that's it, there's more and more pouring out of the store. It's really unbelievable.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of trash out there, just the boxes and the containers left there on the side as I guess they go through, take the shoes, and they're still streaming out like there was some major sale there today. Just continuously. And Gil, no police in sight at this area. They're just leaving this to happen right now because they're holding the line. They've got those protesters who are there in the streets. But again, 9 minutes now after the curfew went into place at 8 o'clock, and we're seeing people run down the streets with their arms full of boxes of high-end shoes.
That's correct. It's unbelievable. I mean, pouring out like crazy. This group still trying to prey on the people that are stealing and then throwing the items in their vehicle. It's just unbelievable to watch that happen. And there they go. They're jumping back in their car. They think they've had enough. But it's unbelievable to see these people go right back. See how these people are running right back in there. Now, we did see them disperse a couple of times when they got spooked by the LAPD skirmish line down the street. They thought maybe they were moving in to this area, but then they saw that they were standing their ground further south and decided, well, let's go back and get more. It's unbelievable to see this happen. I saw people coming out with fluorescent shoes. They look brand new. They probably put them on, tried them on, make sure they fit, and then off they go with other goods in their arms. It's just really sad to see because this is someone's business.
You know, this is not the first looting we've seen today, is it, Gil? We're also talking about the Nordstrom at the Grove. Also, I believe a Ray-Ban sunglass store at the Grove as well.
Yeah, that's correct. Our Megan Reyes was over that portion of the coverage, and we were watching that also unfold. It's just unbelievable. It's this, like you said, this isn't the only store right now that is being hit.
No, but that's the most people I've seen anywhere just having a free-for-all outside that shoe store. And it was pointed out to us that they sell rare shoes, like tennis shoes, and shoes that are worth hundreds, even $1,000 or more dollars worth of goods, you know, that they could be getting away with right now. And they just keep taking more and more boxes and leaving behind debris. They're loading them into cars. And when they've had enough, as you said, Gil, then they just drive off.
I don't think they can fit any more in their cars, and that's the problem.
Differentiate between the looters here and the protesters. Where are the legitimate protesters at this point? Have they dispersed any at all?
Well, they have dispersed in different areas. We saw a group over by
skirmish line, I believe. They have to get these people on the handcuffs and get them out of there.
And that's part of the problem here, because remember, again, we talked about the coronavirus, COVID-19, that's an overlay of all of this. The jails, they can't just, they're trying to keep the population of the jails to a minimum because, of course, there have been cases in the LA County jails, in the different locations there, and so you can't just, they don't want to throw people in. Also, they don't want to have
the curfews in effect.
And it would seem that's their goal. If they're sitting down in the street right now, the mayor said they arrested as many as 500 people last night in downtown LA. So if they're sitting down, they're signaling they don't want to go anywhere.
That's correct, and you see the skirmish line on both sides of them, to the south and to the north, and they've just simply sat down. They have nowhere to go. They're going to sit there, and they're going to move in one by one and arrest each one of these protesters and take them away. But for now, they have them cordoned off here, and the other group of officers here breaking free and setting up another skirmish line to the north. You see that, but just up the street is where the Flight Club LA store is, and we'll see if that's still being looted, and it looks like still some activity in front of there.
Yeah, a lot of trash out there. As well, it is a citywide curfew. You have to leave. The streets must be clear 8 o'clock until 5:30 in the morning so that they can try to get some order here. They have a number of police cars that have been either damaged or completely destroyed because they were set on fire. They want to get those moved out and also take care of some of the damage we've seen. These storefronts that have been busted open, glass everywhere. And again, these people just continuing to carry items down the street. They're carrying high-end shoes from the sneaker shop.
You know, it's interesting, Kathy and Gil, we had a problem last night, or police did, identifying people because so many people were wearing masks. Remember, you still have that order in LA County to wear a mask if you're out.
Yes.
That doesn't seem to be a problem today. I'm not seeing a whole lot of masks on the protesters.
Colleen, if that was for me, yes. There are some, I believe they're just doing it to hide their identity more so than worried about COVID. You see one person there, it looks like he has a mask. Here comes a carload pulling up. They let the guys off, and there they go, off to the races, to the shoe store, and right into the shoe store and try to get whatever's left. Now, the police are very close, but they still haven't moved to this area. We're also hearing of looting going on Melrose and Poinsettia. We're going to try to get over there and look at that. But for now, this is the scene. Cars just rolling up. The word is out that the shop is open and everyone's going in for free stuff. And here they come out again, and they run back up the street and load up their cars.
Yeah, this man almost losing his boxes there. He has his arms so full. And we should note that they're arresting people for civil disobedience who are staying behind after the curfew has gone into effect, but no one being arrested.
Not even close to any officers being out here to prevent that. And we're getting, I'll show you a wider look there, store for their shoes.
Yeah, I'll have to see if they go inside. People are running out of the store right now, and they just keep going. And look at its track.
And get inside the store.
We weren't here for that, but it must have been a joint effort, a group effort to pull that up. You can see one person here holding up the gate for everybody else, another one here on
taking
this
a
end.
picture too.
Taking
those fires still going?
No, the car fires, or at least the squad cars that caught fire earlier in the day, those are long out. I'm going to show you one of them here. Let's see if I can find the location. Actually, it was right there. They may have moved it out.
Yeah, we were watching it with you, watching them as they burned.
Yeah, there it is. And Kathy and Colleen, you see one of them there, a burned out shell. You can't even tell that it was a police officer's vehicle. That one was a Topanga Division officer's vehicle that was set fire. That's at Beverly and Fairfax. This is also the flashpoint where we saw the groups go after the LAPD and chase the street this way in front of TV City, and then busted through the gates with the dumpsters. But busting the gates here, and the security guards at the time were the only ones that were able to fend off those people. You see one of the dumpsters there in front of the gate itself. Right now, it's a staging point for the fire department as I zoom back out, and then I'll tilt back up, and you see the Grove here where that fire was earlier by Nordstrom's. It was a security shack that was set on fire. And the people looting the Nordstrom's as that was burning. So it looks like some calm has been returned to the Grove, and I'm going to pan to the right here and show you one more scene. This is where the bus was being jumped on. I don't know if the bus has been pulled out of there. It looks like it has. That's 3rd and Fairfax. And then a large group that was assembled over here off of this street here. They're long gone. So the groups have splintered all over this area, the Fairfax district. A lot of them moved up Fairfax here where the looting is happening. A lot of them went off to the east. And at this point, the LAPD trying to do what they can, and it looks like they've moved a little bit further into the intersection, or beyond the intersection, back towards that Flight Club LA store. And let's take a look now that we've taken a little tour here to see if that was enough to scare the people away. They're keeping an eye on that skirmish line, but right now they're still going in and out.
You know, Gil, as we continue to look at your picture, we're going to bring in our investigative reporter, Eric Leonard. Eric, you've been talking with folks at the LAPD and the Sheriff's Department. They're on tactical alert, but even more than that, is right?
Yeah, the needs of the department have have grown exponentially in the last few days, as you can imagine. Not just the immediate needs of tonight, but the cascading effect of night after night after night of meeting hundreds of extra officers working a lot of overtime. Just the exhaustion level on the force is tremendous. So the department is getting a lot of help from the County Sheriff's Department. Beyond that, it sounds like assistance is coming in from other parts of the state, Ventura County, any other agencies that have officers to spare who can help manage all of this. And as we've seen in the Fairfax district in particular tonight, the complexity of trying to manage it. They've got a large crowd